You don't rise by feeling ready. You rise by acting anyway. Because readiness is a lie, the mind tells itself to stay comfortable. Readiness is the excuse that keeps potential asleep. If waiting worked, the world would be full of fulfilled people. But it isn't. It's full of talented minds stuck in delay, full of capable hands frozen by doubt, full of souls that knew what to do but waited for permission that never came. The truth is simple and uncomfortable. Most people never start because they want certainty before commitment. They want confidence before action. They want clarity before movement. But clarity comes after motion. Confidence comes after effort. Strength comes after resistance. You don't become ready and then act. You act, and readiness is forged in the process. Look at your life honestly. How many times did you delay because you didn't feel ready? How many moments passed because you were waiting to feel different, stronger, braver, more confident? And how many of those feelings ever arrived on their own? They didn't. Because feelings are followers, not leaders. Action leads. Emotion follows. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks what must be done. And the people who rise are not the most motivated. They are the most obedient to action. They move when it's uncomfortable. They move when it's unclear. They move when the mind is loud and the heart is unsure. They move anyway. Understand this deeply. Hesitation is not wisdom. Most of the time, hesitation is fear dressed up as logic. It sounds reasonable. It sounds responsible, but underneath it is avoidance. And avoidance slowly destroys self-respect. Every time you don't act when you know you should, something inside you weakens. You may not notice it immediately, but over time, it becomes heavy. You start doubting yourself not because you failed, but because you never tried. Action builds identity. Every step forward is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every time you act despite fear, you teach your nervous system a new truth. That fear is survivable. That discomfort is temporary. That you are capable of more than your thoughts allow. The mind will always give you reasons to wait. It will tell you to prepare more, learn more, plan more, think more. Preparation is useful, but preparation without execution is procrastination in disguise. At some point, planning becomes protection from failure. And growth never happens inside protection. Growth happens in exposure. You are not behind because you lack ability. You are behind because you've been negotiating with discomfort. You've been asking permission from fear. You've been waiting for the day when it feels easy. That day does not come, but strength does when you decide to move regardless. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a committed step. You don't need certainty. You need courage. And courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in the presence of it. Every meaningful transformation in your life will begin with an uncomfortable decision. There will be days when you feel strong. Use them. There will be days when you feel weak. Act anyway. There will be days when your confidence disappears. Move anyway. There will be days when the outcome is unclear. Step forward anyway. Momentum is built in motion, not in thought. The body teaches the mind. When you move, your brain adapts. When you endure, your nervous system strengthens. When you act consistently, identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants to change and start seeing yourself as someone who does. Stop romanticizing motivation. Motivation is unreliable. Discipline is loyal. Motivation waits for emotion. Discipline responds to principle, and principles don't change based on mood. You rise when you do what must be done, even when every part of you resists it. You rise when you train on days you don't feel like it, when you work when no one is watching, when you show up without applause, when you act without reassurance. The path upward is not dramatic. It is repetitive. It is quiet. It is built from ordinary actions done consistently under ordinary pressure. That is why most people quit. They want transformation to feel inspiring. But transformation often feels boring, heavy, and lonely before it feels powerful. Do not wait to feel fearless. Fear is part of the process. Do not wait to feel worthy. Worth is built through effort. Do not wait to feel ready. Readiness is earned by showing up before you feel it. Every day you are given a choice. Obey comfort or obey your potential. Comfort will always offer excuses. Potential demands action. One makes you feel safe in the moment. The other makes you proud in the long run. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need perfect conditions. You need to decide that your future is more important than your current emotions. Act tired. Act afraid. Act uncertain. Act anyway. Because on the other side of action is clarity. On the other side of discipline is confidence. On the other side of consistency is freedom. And one day, you will look back and realize the moment your life changed was not when you felt ready, but when you moved, despite not being ready at all. That is how you rise. And when you keep moving, when you refuse to retreat back into excuses, you begin to notice something powerful. The fear that once controlled you starts losing its authority. It doesn't disappear, but it no longer decides. It becomes background noise instead of a command. You stop asking, "How do I feel about this?" and start asking, "What does this require of me?" That shift alone separates those who stay stuck from those who rise. Most people are not defeated by lack of talent. They are defeated by inconsistency. They start strong, then stop when it stops feeling good. But growth was never meant to feel good at first. Growth feels like pressure, like resistance, like being stretched beyond what's familiar. That discomfort is not a warning sign. It is confirmation that you are exactly where you need to be. There will be moments when the effort feels pointless, when results are invisible, when progress feels slow. That is where character is forged. Anyone can act when the reward is immediate. Only the disciplined act when the reward is delayed. And delayed rewards build unbreakable confidence because you know you earned them without applause. You must understand this. The version of you that waits for motivation will never outperform the version of you that obeys structure. Routine beats inspiration every time. Structure creates stability. Stability creates momentum. Momentum creates belief. And belief changes everything. You don't rise by thinking harder. You rise by doing harder things. The mind follows the body. When you push the body forward, the mind adapts. When you keep your word to yourself, self-trust grows. And self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Not hype, not affirmations, evidence. Every action you take despite resistance becomes proof. Proof that you are not fragile. Proof that discomfort doesn't destroy you. Proof that you can handle more than you imagined. That proof compounds, day after day, rep after rep, choice after choice. Stop asking how long it will take. That question is rooted in impatience. Ask instead whether you are willing to become the kind of person who finishes. Because timelines don't define success, identity does. When you become disciplined, results are inevitable. When you become consistent, outcomes follow. There is a quiet power in showing up without drama, in doing the work without announcing it, in building strength where no one can see it yet. That quiet power eventually becomes visible. Results expose discipline long before words ever could. And yes, you will fail sometimes. You will misstep. You will have days where you fall short. But failure is not the opposite of progress. Quitting is. Missing a day doesn't erase the journey. Refusing to return does. The strongest people are not those who never fall. They are those who refuse to stay down. You are not late. You are not broken. You are not incapable. You are simply at a point where a decision must be made. Continue negotiating with fear, or start acting in spite of it. One path keeps you comfortable. The other changes your life. Do not underestimate what daily effort can do. A single action won't transform you, but repeated actions will remake you entirely. The body you want, the mind you want, the discipline you admire in others. All of it is built through ordinary actions performed relentlessly. You rise when action becomes non-negotiable, when excuses stop being entertained, when you decide that how you feel no longer outranks what you've committed to do. This is not about intensity for a week. It's about consistency for years. It's about choosing effort when no one is forcing you. It's about honoring the promise you made to yourself when no one is watching. And one day, without warning, you'll notice something has changed. Tasks that once felt heavy feel normal. Challenges that once scared you feel manageable. The discipline you struggled to maintain feels natural. That's not luck. That's identity shift. You didn't wait to feel ready. You acted anyway. And because of that, you rose. And even now, as you listen to these words, there is a quiet resistance rising inside you. Not because they are wrong, but because they are demanding. Truth always demands something. It asks you to change behavior, not just perspective. And the mind will try to escape that demand by saying, I already know this. Knowing is not the same as living. Understanding is not the same as executing. Wisdom only counts when it's practiced under pressure. There is a version of you that already knows what to do. It knows the habits you've been avoiding. It knows the conversations you've been postponing. It knows the discipline you've been negotiating. That version doesn't need more information. It needs obedience. Every delay feeds doubt. Every excuse strengthens fear. But every small act of courage weakens both. Courage is not a personality trait. It is a muscle. And like every muscle, it grows through resistance. If you avoid resistance, you stay weak. If you face it daily, strength becomes inevitable. You must stop measuring progress by how inspired you feel and start measuring it by how consistent you are. Inspiration is emotional. Consistency is structural. Emotions fluctuate. Structure endures. When your life is built on structure, bad days lose their power. You still act. You still show up. You still move forward. This is where most people break. Not because the task is impossible, but because it is repetitive. Because it doesn't reward you immediately. Because it requires patience in a world addicted to quick results. But patience is power. The ability to delay gratification is one of the highest forms of self-mastery. Look closely at anyone you admire, not their highlights, but their habits. You'll find repetition, discipline, boring consistency. That's the truth no one wants to hear, because it removes the fantasy of shortcuts. But it also gives you something far more valuable: control. You don't need extraordinary circumstances. You need ordinary discipline applied relentlessly. The same effort, repeated long enough, creates extraordinary outcomes. This is how you separate from the crowd, not by doing what feels good, but by doing what others refuse to sustain. And understand this: the mind will never permanently support discomfort. It will always push back. It will always complain. That doesn't mean something is wrong. That means you are training it. When you act anyway, you teach your mind that it is not in charge. That authority belongs to your values. Values are lived, not spoken. Anyone can say they want more. Few are willing to structure their lives to earn it. Structure your mornings. Structure your habits. Structure your standards. What you tolerate daily becomes your destiny. There is no dramatic moment where fear leaves. There is only a quiet moment where you stop listening to it. That moment happens when action becomes your default response. When stress shows up and you don't retreat. When uncertainty appears and you still move. When doubt speaks and you answer with effort. This is what it means to rise. Not to feel elevated, but to act grounded. Not to feel confident, but to behave courageously. Not to wait for strength, but to build it through repetition. One day, your past self will feel unrecognizable. Not because you changed suddenly, but because you refused to stop. You kept going on the days that mattered most, the days you wanted to quit. And when that day comes, you won't say, I got lucky. You won't say, I finally felt ready. You'll say, I acted anyway. That is the difference. That is the edge. That is how you rise. And here is where the truth becomes uncomfortable. Because once you see it, you can no longer unsee it. The life you want is not blocked by lack of opportunity. It is blocked by the version of you that keeps choosing ease over effort. That version is familiar. It feels safe. but it is also the version that keeps you exactly where you are. To rise, something in you must be left behind. Not physically, but psychologically. Old habits, old excuses, old identities that were built around comfort. Growth demands separation. You cannot carry yesterday's weaknesses into tomorrow's discipline and expect transformation. There will be loneliness in this process. When you stop living like everyone else, you stop being understood by everyone else. Your silence will confuse people. Your consistency will intimidate them. Your refusal to complain will make them uncomfortable. Let it. You are not here to be relatable. You are here to be reliable to yourself. Most people seek connection through shared weakness. You are choosing connection through shared standards. That path is narrower, quieter, stronger, and it requires the courage to stand alone before you ever stand respected. Discipline will remove people from your life, not because you changed for the worse, but because you changed direction. When you stop feeding chaos, chaos stops following you. When you stop negotiating your standards, low expectations lose access to you. This is the cost of rising, and it is a cost worth paying, because comfort will never give you self-respect. Only effort does. Only showing up when no one is watching does. Only keeping promises to yourself when breaking them would be easier does. The strongest confidence you can build is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need approval. It comes from knowing you can trust yourself under pressure, from knowing that when things get hard, you don't collapse, you execute. This is why action matters more than intention. Intention feels good. Action changes things, and repeated action reshapes identity. You stop asking, "Can I do this?" because you already are. There is no final destination where discipline ends. There is no finish line where effort becomes optional. This is not a phase. This is a way of living. And once you step into it, there is no going back, because going back would require betraying the person you've become. Every day, the world will try to pull you back into ease. It will offer distraction, comfort, noise, excuses. You must meet that pull with structure, with standards, with a decision already made. Decide in advance who you are. Decide in advance what you tolerate. Decide in advance how you respond to resistance. This removes negotiation. This removes hesitation. This makes action automatic. You don't rise in moments of inspiration. You rise in moments of resistance. When your body is tired and you move anyway. When your mind is loud and you focus anyway. When your emotions resist and you act anyway. That is where the separation happens. That is where the ordinary becomes uncommon. That is where discipline becomes identity. And one day, someone will ask you how you changed. They'll expect a technique, a secret, a shortcut, and you'll realize the answer is simple, but not easy. You didn't wait. You didn't negotiate. You didn't feel ready. You acted anyway. And that is why you rose. And even now, the work is not finished, because rising is not a moment, it is a posture. It is how you stand when no one is watching. It is how you choose when no reward is promised. It is how you respond when life applies pressure and waits to see if you will fold or fortify. Pressure reveals everything. It strips away the stories you tell yourself and exposes your habits. Under pressure, talk disappears. Excuses collapse. Only behavior remains. That is why pressure is not your enemy. It is your instructor. It shows you who you truly are and who you still need to become. Do not curse resistance. Resistance is the weight that builds strength. Without it, nothing grows. Muscles weaken. Minds soften. Character erodes. You were not designed for ease. You were designed for capacity. And capacity is expanded only by demanding more of yourself than comfort ever would. There will be days when progress feels invisible, when effort feels unrewarded, when discipline feels thankless. Those days are not setbacks, they are tests of loyalty. Loyalty to your future self. Loyalty to the standard you chose when motivation was high and promises were made. This is where integrity is built. Not when it's easy to keep your word, but when breaking it would go unnoticed. Integrity is what you do when no consequence is immediate, and integrity, repeated daily, becomes self-respect. Self-respect becomes confidence. Confidence becomes presence. Presence changes how the world responds to you. You stop chasing validation when you are validated by your own effort. You stop seeking approval when you approve of your own discipline. The need to be seen fades when you know who you are. And make no mistake, this path will demand sacrifice. Late nights, early mornings, saying no when others say yes, choosing long-term pride over short-term pleasure. That sacrifice is not loss, it is exchange. You are trading what feels good now for what will feel right forever. The world will call you extreme. Let it. Average lives require average effort. Exceptional lives demand uncommon standards. You cannot live like everyone else and expect a different outcome. Separation is not arrogance. It is alignment. You will outgrow environments. You will outgrow conversations. You will outgrow versions of yourself that once felt permanent. Growth is subtraction, before it is addition. And what remains after subtraction is strength. Do not rush this process. Respect it. Mastery takes time. Identity takes repetition. Greatness is not loud, it is consistent. Quiet days stack. Unseen effort compounds. One day, the weight you struggled to lift becomes your warm-up. And when adversity arrives, as it always does, you will not panic. You will not collapse. You will respond calmly, deliberately, because discipline has trained you to function under stress. That is real power. Not dominance over others, but command over yourself. The world cannot control a person who can control their actions regardless of emotion. Circumstances lose leverage over someone who has decided that effort is non-negotiable. So when doubt returns, and it will, do not debate it, do not analyze it, do not wait for it to leave. Move your body, execute the task, take the step. Action is the fastest way to silence doubt. You do not need to feel different to live differently. You live differently and feeling follows. This is not motivation. This is a standard. This is not hype. This is a code. This is not about rising once. It is about staying risen. You don't rise by feeling ready. You rise by acting anyway. Again and again and again. Until action becomes who you are. And once that happens, nothing can take it from you.